Zambia Blog Talk Radio.
Do you want to promote your business on Zambia Blog Talk Radio? Yes, that's right. Live on Zambia Blog Talk Radio. To book your spot, just make a donation by picking from the following categories. To get started, just call or WhatsApp the number on the screen and you'll be good to go. Live on Zambia Blog Talk Radio every Saturday for 1 full month. And you will stay on the recorded shows.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Saturday, March the 12th. Time is running really fast. Good afternoon, Zambia. Good afternoon, Europe. And good evening, those in the Western Pacific. And I always like to check on my cousin down there in Australia. I know he enjoys looking at this wonderful show. We do appreciate each one of you for joining us. And what a sad day in Zambia. We've lost one of our leaders, one of our fathers, our fourth president. We will talk about that at the end of the show. And our next segment, which is open forum, we are dedicating that to sort of reflect and sort of memorialize President Rupia Bwezani-Banda. But today, we are discussing something different. Let me welcome some of my team members here and say, hey, Kasuluba, where are you? Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
How's Lusaka? What's happening? What's happening? Is it raining? Is it warm? Is it what?
It was hot, then showed signs of rain, but then now it's cool now. Yeah.
Excellent.
But it's
Today we're talking about mental health and the rampant scourge of death by suicide. It appears this is becoming a scourge, not just in Zambia, but globally. And we put together a team of people whom we thought would help us to discuss this and sort of understand. Joining us from the great state of New York is Miss Monica Mutonga. She's a crisis counselor. Good morning, Monica. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
I need to bring you to our home so that you can make my background look as beautiful as your background. How's New York today?
It is good. It's raining, but it's fine. I'm not leaving the house.
Excellent. And also joining us from Lusaka, Zambia, I believe in the same neighborhood as Kasuluba, is Wahema Chenda. Hi, Wahema.
Hi, Anthony. How are you?
How are you doing today?
I'm all right. Despite what's prevailing in our country, I am fine.
Yes, yeah. Sad day in Zambia. Life is what it is. The man tried to fight a gallant. We'll just say hello to Uncle Roger and let him do what he's doing. Uncle Roger, you can see what he has in the background. That's going to be our subject or discussion at the end of this show on top of the Wawa. Hello, my friend. Good morning.
Good morning. As my temperature here is -6, but we are warming up.
You hear that, Monica? -6. That's how he lives there in Canada.
Yeah, no, I'm not coming there.
Comfortable where I am too.
No, you're comfortable where you are too. So thank you, Roger. We shall be having Roger join us later as we go in our discussion. Let me begin with you, Monica, and ask this question. It's the issue of mental health is quite a crucial one. And what constitutes the person being considered as having a mental crisis? And what would you say? I mean, after the whole world has been through COVID-19, okay, now Russia has invaded Ukraine for no reason, and we are almost having an oil global crisis. And for the rest of us in the Zambian community, we lose our fourth president. Monica, I think we are all having a mental crisis here.
I agree. It's definitely, usually a crisis is something that might last up to like 6 weeks. However, in this case, we've been hit so much with the pandemic. You know, we're still in the pandemic going on. And then now the war in Russia. And then now we just lost our fourth president. So the moment you think you're coming up for air, something big really happens. So it is definitely something that will keep us going in cycles of re-experiencing that crisis. And it can happen to anyone, even the most strongest people. We all experience that. Even as mental health crisis counselors, we experience it. However, it's knowing that we have communities that we can have to help us through this crisis, because life was not meant to be done alone. So talking about the crisis in itself helps us to be regulated and to normalize what's going on and know that we are not alone.
Amazing, amazing. Before we continue our discussion here, let me ask this to Wahema. What made you? I mean, begin to get involved in this? What were the circumstances that put you in that situation?
Okay, I think normally, like everybody else, I found myself in a space where I was dealing with so many challenges and so many struggles, and I was confined and I was alone. So that when I discovered that I had no one by my side, no one's going to help me deal with these struggles, and society in general wasn't addressing these issues. And like we have noticed, there was at that very period of phase of my life, there was a huge number of young men, to be particular, who are committing suicide. All of them who are seen to be very high profile people and people in good, what we call good atmospheres. It began to hit me that something is happening in the background that's really not being done or being addressed. And when I saw that the age group was really falling around the young people, really got me concerned, because we really do believe that the young people are the future of the nation. But if the future of the nation are taking their lives prematurely, then the direction of the nation is sort of unknown. So I thought of stepping out and experiencing and really exposing myself and trying to understand what's happening in the background, so I can lift up one or two people and we can be in a better space.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Monica, you made a statement in your what do you call it, in your explanation or in your answer to my first question. You say life wasn't meant to be done alone. One of the biggest issues about this matter is people opening up. Why do you think it's such a struggle for all of us to open up, like Wahema said, to come out and say, hey, cousin, brother, sis, this is what I'm dealing with? Where does the challenge really lie?
For me, I believe it's the stigma that comes with it. So our society associates asking for help with weakness, when it's the complete opposite, right? So even our own family members would judge us when we come to them with simple problems, and they'll just tell us, you'll be fine, just go to church and pray. But it goes beyond just going to church and praying. We need to be able to, and if you cannot find it in your family members, then find someone. Pray that God will bring people in your life who you can be able to open up to and be able to trust and speak on these things. We hear a lot about celebrities who have millions in their bank accounts, but they go and kill themselves, right? So it's not that the lack of not being able to gain wealth and buy whatever they want to make them happy, but because they are lacking those mutual connections with people they can sit and be able to just freely talk about their problems in a non-judgmental environment. That's what's lacking. And unfortunately, a lot of it is in our own homes. So if you don't feel safe in your own home, you probably think, why should I go out to a stranger and talk to a stranger about how I'm feeling? How will they react? However, this is where discernment come in. When we do seek out those relationships, those friendships, we can be connected with people who can come alongside us and help us through the journey.
Wonderful. I like what you've brought out, Monica. A follow-up question, obviously, to both of you, Waima then Monica, is why the sudden rise in mental health issues as well as suicidal cases? Is it that people are more free now to come out? Because then you've pointed out, for example, to say it's a stigma and also people usually fail to come out. So then why the sudden issues? Is it that people are more free now to come out? Or maybe there's more mental breakdowns now than before? Waima, then Monica.
Okay, so I really like where Monica is coming from, because she's giving us a proper foundation of how life normally should happen, and she's highlighted something very important. Coming out is perceived by society as a sign of weakness. And one of the reasons that society is experiencing very high rates of this depression, anxiety, and suicide cases is that the lifestyle that we've created today, that we're living now, I think personally I feel is very superficial and it's very unrealistic, and puts unrealistic expectations on the shoulders of a person. And because of that very reason, every one of us feels this pressure to live a lifestyle that everyone else sees to be normal and sees to be excellent. We've reduced just good one of the most common elements of relationships. Reduced relationships, defining them to 30-second videos of how excellent everything is going to look like, how amazing everything is going to be, and we're living out the reality and the truth behind all those things. Now, because someone jumps into a relationship and they begin to experience the hardships, they begin to experience all these other things that they don't see on social media, that they don't see on these TikTok videos, they can't believe and accept that as reality, and hence they want to live that lifestyle. Now, this falls around into every category of our lives. You go on, even LinkedIn today. LinkedIn is slowly turning into something like Facebook, because people are not there to connect anymore. People are there to show their achievements. Oh, I'm doing A, B, C, D. I'm now successful. I have a PhD now. I have a master's in whatever. Now, people who are not in that space, who are not in that atmosphere, feel left out. They feel like, I will not achieve this. I'm not capable of getting to this status in life. And now they have all these negative thoughts about themselves and have no one now to open up to. Because if you open up to someone, someone's going to laugh at you and say, like, oh, my guy, you just have to pull up your socks. Yeah. Oh, you just have a weak mental space. Or you're going to be looked down upon. No, he will say things like you're not strong enough, or you're not doing good enough and whatnot. But not understanding that even our battles, our pain, our weight is very subjective to who we are. Just because you can handle a particular situation doesn't mean someone else is going to handle it in the same manner. So that environment that we've created for ourselves has caused people to be emotionally isolated. And when they're emotionally isolated, their thoughts are what is sustaining them, building them, or destroying them. But in this case, majority of their thoughts is just going to end up leading to destroy themselves. But now that they're in this space where they feel like they can't make it, the only way they are going to think of surviving is an escape. And the quickest escape from the pain is what? Is death. That's the only reasonable solution. That's only going to come to their head. And they want to escape in that man. I feel like that is somehow one of the biggest reasons that's causing people to have high anxiety cases and depression, and later on lead on to suicide.
Yeah, Waima, you touched on so many amazing points, and I definitely agree with every single thing you just mentioned. You know, life has become this instant because of social media. Many years ago, we didn't have that, right? Even 10 years ago, social media was not as high as it is right now. People do go on there to just put their highlights. They may be having a horrible day, but when they go back to check what their highlights is, it shows this happy life. Meanwhile, they're really struggling on the inside. However, I believe that people are speaking up now because of our generation. Our generation is very vocal. And I think we want to see change, right? So we like for me, I always say I am going to be that chain breaker in my life, in my family. I want to break the generational curses. So it starts with us. So when we get to the point where you realize that enough is enough and something different has to be shown, then we start to say, okay, it might be hard to speak up, but I have to say something, right? So it starts with ourselves. And so as a community, as a young generation, just talking about this might be hard in the beginning. And listen, friends would just even look at you and be like, what are you talking about? You should be doing this and not that. But yet, if this is what God has laid on your heart, he will give you the courage to continue speaking on it, to continue pushing through, no matter how hard it gets. And then you start getting people messaging you one by one saying, hey, that really helped me. I have been amazed by myself because I never had the courage to do what I do now. But I get people here and there telling me, oh my goodness, that helped me so much. And I would have never thought if I said what I said that it would have helped that person. But just aiming to even reach one individual, that is one individual too many, because guess what? We are creating the effect of passing on the information from one person to another, from one person to another. And I think just our generation really wants to see differently. And this is why we are stepping out in faith and just trying to speak up with whoever is listening. Let them take the word and run with it.
Awesome. I like the points that you brought out. And both of you touched, Waima mentioned to say you would want to come out, then they're going to tell you to say, just be tough, be strong. Whether you're male or female, they'll actually say, no, these things you'll be able to overcome. The other one, Monica, you also made mention to say, people just tell you to say, just pray. For those that are Christians, for example. Yeah. In other religions, I'm sure there's also to say, maybe take it to Allah or things like that. So then in the Zambian setup, maybe now it's a bit different, but why are issues or why have issues to do with mental health or suicidal cases mystified or spiritualized? So it's not real, it can't happen. If someone comes in and it's to do with mental health, then they've been bewitched or, others believe maybe they don't even pray so much. Yeah, Monica, Weimar, why do you think it's that way?
Honestly, I'm not even sure. I just feel like we've been so conditioned to do things one way, right, for a very long time. So based on how our parents grew up, their parents grew up, so they've learned certain way of how to deal with things. When you get sick, you don't have to go to the hospital, go see someone who has, natural medication, different things like that. So I just feel like we're so conditioned to these things. However, as we grow, our world is constantly changing, and then we view it in different ways. So even growing up, I heard it all the time. You don't need to I remember when I was going into this field of mental health counseling, even psychology in my undergraduate 11 years ago, my own family told me, you're going to study psychology? You want to work with crazy people? Because that's exactly what it was associated with, right? I remember growing up in Zambia as a child, all I used to hear is, "Bazak perekak chainama, bazak perekak chainama." So I was like, oh my God. So even when I came to the US, I'm here like really passionate about trying to study something of understanding humans fully. And I'm still being told, you want to work with crazy people. So that is so ingrained in our society that the stigma is so big. You cannot even say one word without someone associating you being a crazy individual. So they just say, oh yeah, just go to church. We're going to pray for you. We're going to do this. But yet it's like they don't understand. There's so much more to it. Even people who go in the church need counseling. Even the pastors themselves need counsel, right?
Yes.
It's just incredible how we sit here and try to normalize something that does not have to be that way.
Yeah. Before Emma jumps in, sorry, on a light moment, a thought just came in as you were saying that, Monica. It's like there are two things, or could be more, that are mystified in Zambia. One, mental health and all, then go pray, go seek guidance. Maybe you're possessed or you're bewitched. The other one is you can't be extremely rich. Then you're also you've done certain things. Such
Right.
beliefs to agree with what you're saying. Waima, come in.
Yeah, exactly what Monica is trying to put across. We have one of the reasons we mystify spirit and mental health and all these other issues is I think majority of the people that have gone ahead of us do not have the understanding or have grasped everything to their fingers. They're used to doing things in a certain way, and hence when you come to them with these issues, they'll tell you, no, just go and pray. But the reasons why the Bible speaks of certain things in the way it does, it always tells us, you need to find yourself in the council of the wise. You need to find yourself in atmospheres and spaces where you're with people who are like-minded. When you're with people who are like-minded, you're able to understand and articulate things. But even the book of Proverbs does tell us that a rope that has one strand is easy to break, but on a rope with three strands is much more difficult to break. What does that tell us? It's about the
Amen.
bonds and the relationships that we have with people. So majority of the people that have gone ahead of us, our parents and everyone else, do not understand, truly do not understand how all these things make an impact in our lives. And hence, whenever you bring it before with them, it's just like, no, just go and pray about it. It's just a simple thing. Because for them, it's normal to struggle like that. For them, it's normal to deal with these things and not address them and not see how deep rooted they are and how much they impact an individual. And I wonder if you look at majority of the people around, the majority of the older generation that are around, very few of them really do open up even to other people of their own age group. They rather die with an issue and have it eat them up on the inside.
Oh
And you
yeah.
just see someone falling because of heart failure or something because they never grew up in an environment where they opened up. And I'm very sure every one of us knows the stories that you'll be told. Oh, Monica Kosa, oh, Mama Kosa, and whatnot. Even when things are wrong, even when things are bad, they just expect you to hold it in because it's seen as a symbol of strength and it's seen like you are that individual, you're a powerful person. But in reality, it is not that you're powerful, but you're scared and you're weak and you're not unable to open up. So if we can change that perception and help people understand that opening up is not a sign of weakness, it's actually a sign of strength, that you have the ability to set yourself apart and to stand out in the group and say, hey, I have issues. I think that's when we can begin to roll the ball and things can change from there.
Very quickly, Kasluva, on the point of opening up, couldn't be, or isn't one of the issues that if when I'm dealing with it myself, nobody knows. If I open up, I expose myself to the whole world and say, oh, so they are crossing that barrier. Just crossing that barrier of saying, you know what, I'm going to make myself vulnerable and open up. What does it take? What should someone do?
In addition to that, Uncle Nathan,
Mm-hmm.
also, like what you're saying, you're also looking at the position that you hold in society. A whole leader, for example. Maybe it could even be a whole therapist. So you are the one who talks about mental health issues, or you're a bishop or a pastor. Okay, then now you're perceived to be that perfect figure. So how do you come out? Or won't I make myself more vulnerable? Yeah, like you're saying. So how do we get to deal with such? Monica, Waima.
Yeah, I would love to add to that. So sometimes through my journey, I've discovered that healing comes through storytelling, right? And a lot of times we don't realize how much we're actually freed by just talking about whatever it is that's weighing heavily on us. When we just sit and consume everything, when we are pushed to be strong, be strong, be strong, but yet you're not giving me a foundation to be able to stand on, to have the strength. How am I supposed to be strong when I'm miserable, right? So I'm dealing with so many things, and that's why people pretend walking around to be strong and to be happy, and then they die of a heart attack. So it's like, how does that even work? So being able to say, okay, I reached to a point for myself where I got to a point where I said, I am going to start talking about my life and finding the right people. It may start with one person. So find one person that you feel you can trust and then see what happens. And honestly, it's just asking God for that guidance. So it's not like you're going to stand somewhere and open up fully with everything. Start little by little. Tell that one person a little something here and see how they react. If you see that their person is just like, I can't even imagine, be able to read what they give back. But if someone you open up to and they say, I may not understand, I may not have been there, but I'm here to try to be in your shoes. Someone who can empathize with you, not simply just sympathize. So when we're empathizing, we're feeling with. When we're sympathizing, we're feeling for. I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. And I know anyone here and anyone who's listening, no one wants to be felt sorry for. But if someone can come alongside us and say, listen, it sounds like you've been through a lot of things. So I would like to try to understand, even though I wasn't there. Healing can slowly begin in those process. And then it becomes easier to share our story over time, with what starts off with you just being closed off. And that's what leads to isolation. When we're isolated, Waima had mentioned before, you get all these thought attacks that you get to a point where you just feel like you're closed in and there's no way out. So we start by talking little by little.
Monica, before Emma jumps in, so how do I know this person is sympathizing or they're empathizing? What are the characteristics or features? Because obviously, if I know that this person is empathizing, then I'll draw to them, right? And open up a little bit more. So how do I tell the difference?
So simply, if someone is empathizing with us, they're not judging us, first of all. And they're not telling us, they're not trying to tell us what we should be doing right, what should be doing wrong. They're simply just sitting with us in our pain. Whereas someone who's sympathizing would try to be like, oh, but at least you are this, at least you are that. So now they start to compare, trying to make you feel bad in your situation when you're already feeling down. So for example, this is just a random example. If I say, oh yeah, I've been married 5 years and I've been having a hard time having children. So the person will say, oh, but at least you have a husband, right? So they completely miss the whole point of why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, instead of saying, I am so sorry. I can only imagine what you've been going through. What have you been trying to do to try to have a baby? So instead of exploring it that way, they already have a solution to saying, oh, but at least you're this, at least you're that. So something around in that context.
I honestly agree, and I like where Monica is coming from and the question that has been asked. That's one of the reasons we have problems in society. Because of the status that we tag on someone and we put on someone, we put the status first and we forget that this person is a human being with human emotions and weaknesses and flaws. So you see a person, oh, he's a businessman, or she is a CEO somewhere, she's all these things. You forget completely that they are human beings before all those titles. And because we forget that they are human beings before all those titles, we tag this, we subconsciously tag this element of perfection on them, and we can't see them making a mistake or having a flaw. And because we put them there and put them on the pedestal, they as well feel entitled to sit in that position and forget they are also human. So when they error, they have no one else to run to, because we have put them there and they now are comfortable in that position, and now it begins to eat them up and dissolve them from the inside because they have no one else to run to. I really do feel like that's what is causing everything that's happening today with mental health and whatnot. It's because we have forgotten that first we are humans before anything else. And the element that Monica brought out, to tell your story, it's something that is very amazing and very healing, and I've experienced it, and it builds people because it's honest, it's true, it's authentic to your experience. We have these sessions that we have at least once a year. We have these sessions that we call Tell Your Story. So we bring up different individuals, and they're able to, this high profile individuals, they're able to tell their story from where they came from. What that does to majority of the listeners is it makes you not sympathize but empathize with somebody. You understand where they are coming from, where they are, and where they're trying to go. And because of that, it draws your status and your level down, and you understand, you humble yourself that you are also human You can error, you can fall, you can also have mistakes, you can also mess up. Once we begin to understand we have that human element and we're capable of doing all these things, we are able now to progress and open up to people. And what I want to just also comment on something Uncle Nathan had spoken about opening up, being able to open up to people. What we need to do is, and one of the problems that we're also having is that even as we are growing, we're not establishing genuine relationships. Our relationships are broken from the beginning. And because they're broken from the beginning, even as they transpire, the foundation is very weak. And we know these foundations are weak because we're afraid to open up to these people. Yeah. And because we're afraid to open up to the people that we call friends, we literally feel like we are in a box and we're caged up and isolated. So what majority of the people need to do, what we all need to do is do an assessment, be able to discern what kind of people you have around you. And we need to be very honest and very frank about it. When people around us and not the people we can open up to, it shows that we're in a wrong circle and in a wrong environment. But if you're in an environment where you can walk up to Monica and say, Monica, I have an issue. This is what's going on. Monica won't judge me. Monica will look down on me. Monica will be like, okay, have you tried ABCD? Have you tried ABCD? Is this the root cause? But if you're able to be in that environment, it's easier for you to come up with your situations, and it's easier for you to now take the step boldly to do that and open up to people.
Wow, amazing. Like Mr. Mwewa here is saying, before Roger comes in, opening up is a challenge. Most people have been hurt because they opened up and their story went viral. Of course, the word viral is as a result of social media, which you both already addressed.
Exactly.
Well, the fact that you are someone is saying opening up, that's a problem on its own. What are you opening up? Nindwala malaria. I just tell people Nindwala malaria. There is nothing to hide. So the fact that mental health, it is something first and foremost we have to open up. In short, it's something we have to depress. It's something we don't have to talk about freely. That's where the problem lies. Interesting discussion you guys are having. Like most things in Zambia, what I have found, say, for instance, financial education. We are not taught financial education in schools when we are young to appreciate financial education. Now, when we grow up, we are scrambling. Oh, how do I budget? How do I do this? We don't seem to catch up. When I was young, I used to get malaria. When I grew up, I used to get malaria. So I knew that, oh, this I could get, and it was normal. Mental health, today you feel, if you understand Bemba, kukulu, when everyone is grown. When we are young, mental health issue. We have not this, we have not, I don't know if it's a question, but how do we take it down to the source, to the school, so that they know that mental health is as good as someone who has headache? It's the same. Or someone who has malaria. It could be the same. How do we take it there? That is number one. Two, as they say, mental health, by the way, even here where I am in Canada, where you are in New York, Monica, it is a stigma everywhere you go.
That's right.
When you have mental health, it is a stigma. In my view, it is something we are not trained to deal with when we are very young. We just come now that we've grown up. Okay, we have Aba who is not well. Like Monica was saying, Nathan, you don't even want to understand the problem. You just conclude Waripena, issue. But some, they went to war, they come confused. Some giving birth, they things go on. There are several reasons. So In my view, at one point we should address mental health from, I don't know if it's kindergarten is a good place to start with, Monica. I am not sure, but let us start it let us not do it where we have done a lot of things and we don't seem to catch up. It is a very, very sensitive subject and it shouldn't be. It should be, in my view, Nathan, as common as a common flu. If someone has mental health, we appreciate them, we understand them, we find ways of helping them and living with them.
That's true. How do we create that atmosphere will be our next question that we are going to address as we take a commercial break here. Let's take a break.
Do you want to promote your business on Zambia Broad Talk Radio? Yes, that's right. Live on Zambia Broad Talk Radio. To boost your spot, just make a donation by picking from the following categories. To get started, just call or WhatsApp the number on the screen and you'll be good to go. Live on Zambia Broad Talk Radio every Saturday for 1 full month. And it will stay on the recorded shows.
We're talking about mental health issues and death by suicide and why the cases have become rampant, not just in Zambia, globally. We started the discussion by highlighting us having gone through, and we are still in the pandemic. It hasn't gone away. Don't be fooled. We're still in the pandemic. Then Putin decides to do what he has done. In Zambia, we're dealing with the death of the fourth president. Everything is just coming and crumbling down on all of us. So what was the question before we went on break, Kasulu? I've already forgotten what I said.
Yeah. Uncle Nathan, you wanted to ask to say, how can we create that enabling environment? For how can we be free and come out? But I would like to jump in before we get to your question. Uncle Roger brought in very important things. For example, he talked about how we're not taught, maybe let's say financial literacy from kindergarten, primary, and all. Then when you're about to leave college or something like that, that's when you need now to be able to manage your finances. So in that vein, before we get to the solution or how to create a favorable environment, what are the causes of mental health? Obviously, I believe Uncle Roger was trying to mention to say even finances are causes of mental health. So what are some of the causes of mental health?
Ladies first.
Okay. Well, to be honest, there's a lot of factors that go into causes of mental health. So I remember a few semesters ago while in school falling in love when I learned about childhood adversities, right? So I think it starts in for kids at least. It starts in childhood adversities, which can be anywhere from growing up in a poor environment, being sexually molested. So it's like all these things where kids should not be experiencing. And right now, an example is growing up in a war zone. So there are all these things that just disturbs people's daily lives that can add on to our mental health. And finances is a really, really big part of that. Because if you don't know how to handle your finances, everything else around you just feels like it's crumbling down. You don't feel like you're in control. You don't feel like you can take care of your family. So now you're stressing and not being able to help. In itself, that's a crisis in itself. And so people just end up giving up. And yeah, there's so many things that start. And I want to point out, as Mr. Raja was mentioning, how can we normalize having mental health as any other disease that people may experience, right? But it's so stigmatized all around the world that this is why we have to now relearn and reteach ourselves how to be comfortable to talk about such issues, because it's such a heavy topic. Why? I have no idea. It's beyond me. However, what we can do is having sessions like what we're doing now, topics to just talk about it to normalize it as best as we can, to educate. And even if we're teaching kids from kindergarteners, it starts with educating the teachers themselves. What are the teachers teaching the children? And when the children are home, how are they actually practicing to know that, okay, this is how I can be able to help myself? Because guess what? Whatever is being taught at them in school, when they go home, it might be a completely different environment. We don't know the environments, the backgrounds our kids are coming from. So that in itself is also a challenge. So we need to educate our educators about mental health. We need to educate the caregivers, the parents, the people that are taking care of our kids. So that way, what is being taught in school today, they can learn that it's okay to feel your feelings. It's okay to feel your emotions. They'll go home and do something and fall. Guess what? Oh, get up. You're going to be just fine. You don't need to cry. You're a boy. So now it's like all these building blocks, all these blocks that are being built up in a child to do this one way when they're at school. And then when they are at home, they're doing, it's like messed up. That cycle that they're learning that this is normal, when they go in a different environment, it's not normal. So now the kid is confused. So that already in itself leads to having a crisis. So the kids will just shut down and not know how to properly know what is really going on. How should I handle the situations that are coming at me? So it's a lot of factors that go in it. But I think when we can all come together and say, okay, so at school, this is what we learned, check in with the parents. How are the parents doing? And what's the language that's being used with the kids in their homes as well? But that's not something the educators can control in the schools.
Excellent. I
Well said.
really like where it's like Monica was just reading my mind. The root of all these conversations, the root of all these problems is in the household. Because it's in the household we learn what the world is around us. It's where we find our identity, where we learn how to value things, and where we learn how to build relationships. So if we identify ourselves with a particular item or a particular element, just identify ourselves with what having a degree or a master's as successful, we place our value on it, and we don't achieve that masters as we had planned to be, we feel like we haven't lived a full life. We feel lost because what we had tied our value to, seen as our identity, has not been achieved. So as we grow up in the household, we are given these things or these elements that we should identify ourselves with. When you grow up, they tell you success should look like this. You're a boy, so A, B, C, D is your life. Your girl, A, B, C, D is your life. They do not. Majority of parents don't care of your passions, of your interests, and the things that you want to do with your life. All they care for is for you to go this particular path, whether you like it or not, and that will be done for you. That in itself begins to create a wall, because you have these passions, you have these things that you aspire to do. Then you have your word, which is coming from your parent. That in itself, when that begins to mix as we grow up, that begins to brew so many issues and so many conflicts within ourselves, and that's where the problem begins. And now, aside from that, the relationships that we have with the people around us, our parents, for example, majority of the people who are growing up across the world don't even have a healthy relationship with their parents. And if you don't have a healthy relationship with your parents, it's very difficult for you to relate even with other people out there, because the foundation for understanding how relationships should be, which is supposed to be in the household, isn't there. It's broken. So when how we perceive things out there is going to be different. If you can bear witness with me, a person who's never felt or lived a healthy relationship, once they experience a healthy relationship, will begin to rebel because it's foreign to them. Yeah. And because of that environment that's been created, the issues begin to seep in. So what we see or identify in ourselves, or how our parents are identifying ourselves, putting value on ourselves, giving us understanding and helping us come to a point where we know what we ought to do, the values that we ought to live by, and the way we should lift and move with relationships really, really matters, because that determines in how we relate with the rest of the world. So our relationships, our identity, and how we value things has a great impact on who we are. If we are taught how finances should be dealt with, it is much easier for you when you encounter a problem, when you encounter financial stress, for you to deal with your financial issues, because the environment that you are growing up in, the institution that your household has created a system within you to be able to deal with these issues. But now, that has been thrown away. Even in our families are broken, and hence we view things which are broken as normal. So that in itself is a huge challenge, because it's like you're building your house on a broken foundation, which is very good. It will take maturity, and it will take someone with discernment to go back into their childhood, yeah, and assess and address the issues that they had experienced, for them to build from there and progress forward. But majority of us don't know what to do, and are afraid of going inwards to actually deal with our thoughts and deal with our emotions. We'd rather distract ourselves. And hence, I think that's where social media comes in, because social media acts as the perfect role of distraction from dealing with the actual issue. So all those things put together really do give rise to so many problems and so many solutions. I have this example to cite of various responsible parents. So there's this set of parents that I know that refuse to give their children their phones from the day that they're 1 year old. The only time that the child gets their phone is when they turn 14. Yeah,
Okay.
that's one reason. They want them to be able to build relationships outside social media. One, they want them to learn things in the household. They want to learn things with their parents, to have conversations with people, and how to relate with people. So that even when they're introduced to social media, their foundation is strong and is set. And which is also a very biblical principle. When you set a child on a particular path, they
Yeah.
will live like that for the rest of their lives, unless there's God's intervention, unless there's grace in the picture. But otherwise, when we set the foundation, we set the pace for the child will grow like that.
That's good. As we continue our discussion, we've put up a banner there for Zambia Mental Health Hotline. Wahema, how does that work?
I've never tried it. I've just been hearing about it. But I think when you call them, you're able to speak to a counselor, and you're able to have a conversation with whatever has been transpiring in your life. If you need a physical meeting, I think they can arrange for all those other things. I think that's how it has been working for, I think, for the few people that I've spoken to who have tried it.
And it's actually toll free. It's toll free. So
Yes,
when you
it's
call it, it's toll free.
So there's no expense to you. I mean, yeah.
No.
So
There's
you
no
can call
cost.
that number.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. Let's show the US hotline. Monica, how does that work?
Yeah, so for this one, you have available, depending on the zip code, when you call the 1-800 number,
Yes.
people in whatever state you're in, based on that phone number, the area code will automatically go to your state that you're in, and then you'll be able to get connected to the counselors there. If you don't feel like calling, you feel embarrassed for whatever reason, or you're just not comfortable speaking, there's also a texting option by texting the number, texting the word connect to 74174.
All right. Okay. Good options right there. So we just want everybody to know that there are resources available out there for you to receive the help that you need. So that's the US number there. And we also have the Zambian one, which you can connect to, and you will get the necessary help. Okay, Mr. K.
So in addition, before I come in with the question, I like the points that both have raised, and from what you've both brought out. So I am thinking mental health causes stem from financial challenges, maybe delay in getting a job. If you're a lady, you're not married when other people are married, the stigma, or even just not driving, and many other issues. Some issues tend to be little issues to some people, but they're a big deal because it's about how an individual takes it. For example, Monica mentioned to say somebody has been married for 5 years without a kid. You tell somebody, then they're like, at least you're married. Me, I'm not even married. But then to that particular person, it is an issue. So then, deciphering the major issues as to why people have mental issues and mental breakdowns leading to suicidal cases. Can we really, how much can we blame society or social media as to the major leaders to mental health, isn't it then to a greater degree an internal thing, an issue of maybe not being grateful because there's the next level definition of success? So just because I do not have a master's degree, like Emma said, no, I'm being looked down upon. No, I'm a man and I do not have a house for myself. So I'm being rejected by ladies. All these are real issues. So is it more of an individual thing within, or is it a society thing? Monica?
So, Castilba, I love that you brought that up, because that goes back to really looking internally. Sometimes we have to do that on a regular basis, right? This goes back to what is in my control versus what I can't control, right? And so many things will happen, and people will have whatever they have outside. And I think the revelation also comes from knowing that, yeah, you may look on social media, but half of those people, maybe more than even half of those people who post on social media, they're just posting what you want to see versus what reality is, because they won't want to show you their reality. They're just showing you highlights of their life. But when we really take a step back and taking an inventory of saying, okay, what am I grateful for? When we really sit down and take an inventory of what we are grateful for as individuals, that really shifts the perception and everything around us. It's not bad that you desire things, but what is bad is if we're fully focusing on, oh, my friend has this and I want it too, but I can't have it. And then you start building resentment and jealous towards that. So yeah, you're desiring, you might be jealous that you want something, but you turn that jealousness into drive of doing better for yourself, right? And so what can you do to better your life? Because every day cannot be you just sitting down saying, oh yeah, my friend has this degree, has that degree. Now, considering maybe they don't have the resources. Is it a resources issue? Is it a money issue? Is it, maybe you feel like you don't really have all these opportunities to embark on? But daily, if we take the moment to look around and say, what am I grateful for today? The moment you wake up, in itself, that should be gratitude, because you're breathing and someone else didn't get to wake up that day, right? So now that you're awake, you have to, well, at least for me, I wake up and I say, Lord, thank you for this breath on my lungs, because no, someone else doesn't have that. So what is it that you want me to do in this day? And just really looking to see when Waima kept talking about surrounding yourself with people, right? Maybe like-minded people. That is so crucial, because it comes back to you being inspired and encouraged with those people. Let those people not only inspire you, but challenge you. Challenge one another to do better and to want better, right? My pastor always used to say that when you hang around ducks, you're going to end up being like a duck. When you're hanging around eagles, you're going to be soaring like eagles. So look around your circle of friends of who you're hanging around with. If you're around people who are just trying to show off and tell you, oh, I have this and I have that, like all these material possessions, at the end of the day, that should not be something that's really making us sick, because you cannot compare to material things to the wealth that we have, that can be found in having that relationship with Christ. So once we have that firm foundation, we can be able to see, okay, where is it that I want to go? What is it that I'm grateful for today? With having an expectation that God is going to do greater and bigger things. But we have to be able to step out in faith for us to do that, to get to that place.
Excellent. Waima.
So as everything was just going, I was trying to quote something for majority of the people. So let me start this conversation from this. Majority of us are moving in a space where we're trying to lift and build everything by ourselves and lift everything on our shoulders.
Yes.
But majority of the times, it's very important we understand that no man was made an island, and we need to live together to exist for anything to move forward. That being said, it is very, very, very important that we know what we can do, who we are, and by knowing who we are, we know the direction and path and how we ought to live our lives, and it gives us an understanding of what we can do, our capacity. Yeah, majority of us don't know our capacity, and hence this is why we look at everyone else's things as amazing and everyone else's things as better than us and better than ours, because someone is throwing it in your face. We never even have the time to sit back and look behind and say, where is it coming from, what is the source and whatnot. We just want to live an externally beautiful life for everyone else to see, when even if internally we are having issues and we're having struggles. So that coming from that angle, we need to understand that at some point in our lives, we need to be able to build some resilience, and we need to be content and be thankful for the things that we have. I had the privilege to speak to one of Professor Dr. Musoma, who gave us 3 letters. One of his first letters, he taught us gratitude. In the absence of gratitude, disappointment. In the absence of gratitude, depression, anxiety, loneliness abide. What that means that whenever we stop being grateful for what we have, we begin focusing on what we don't have.
Yeah.
So like Monica said, she wakes up in the morning and says, I'm grateful for a breath of life. That means that when you are grateful for the breath of life, it opens your mind that you have the capacity, you have the opportunity to do something with your life. That in itself will lift your spirit, you will lift your heart to be able to go out there and do something with your life. That's one thing. If we are grateful for what we have. 2, we're not content with what we have. Yeah, I'm not saying that when you are having a job, you're just comfortable in it or whatnot. We're not complacent. There's a difference. Being complacent is just sitting down and just saying, this is it, this is the end for me. But we're being content, saying, I'm good where I am, I can progress from here, but right now I'm good. I'll progress with time, and giving yourself that opportunity and that space. Majority of us want life to move so quick, and if it's the younger generation with everything that's going on, I recently met someone who's 22 years old, and she's telling me I've got my master's and whatnot. I said, what am I doing with my life? You know what I'm saying? But you have to understand that time and chance happens to them all. We all can't live in the same timeline. There's this
True.
Yes, there's this Bemba proverb that says, Mango taipida pamo. Those are the realities we need to constantly remind ourselves and grasp. If we're able to grasp that and remind ourselves that nothing will always happen at the same pace, nothing will always happen. Not every one of us will be married at the same time, and that's what's happening to the majority of the people. And when I look around, people are scrambling and running to do what everyone else is doing, but that's not the truth and the reality of how our life should be like. Let everyone run their own race. Run your own race according to your capacity and your timeline. And for the believers out there, for those who are Christians, I really love to quote this verse. It's Philippians chapter 4, verse 6, a very common verse that we give out. And it says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. So before you make your requests be known to God, be thankful about something.
That's right.
Majority of the times we just go and just delay God, me, I need the Lamborghini, me, I need the house, I need the man, I need the woman, without being grateful for the fact that you even have the breath in your lungs to actually breathe and do this. I work in a hospital. Yeah. So when you're in that environment, and sometimes you could be complaining, oh, life is hard and what, then you hear someone in the wards crying because they've lost their relative. That could be me. You know what I'm saying? But I'm alive today. I can call my mom, I can call my dad, I can call my siblings. I've got friends around me that I can call and have a conversation. That's something to be grateful for. So if we're ever going to deal with these issues, is for people to understand their identity and be grateful for the small, simple things in life. Be grateful to say that you can call a friend. Be grateful to see that you can wake up and walk with your own 2 legs. You know what I mean? Be grateful that you are alive today. If you have any physical ailment, but you are still alive, you can still feel the pain and you are alive. And if you are alive, there's still a chance and a shot and opportunity. If we're able to get into that space where we're more realistic and more alive and more open about these things, it is much easier to deal with. And also, one very simple.
Quickly, we've run out of time.
Sorry, I really needed to get this off my chest.
Okay.
For the people that are not believers and for the people that don't want to be Christians and whatnot and want to just carry burdens on their own, the Christian faith does highlight that we need to give our burdens to God and gives us a lighter one that we can manage. By doing so, life becomes easier to live by. So if you're out there, there's someone out there known as Jesus Christ who's ready to lift your burdens and is ready to help you. And when you enter that body of Christ, you are not alone. There are people around you that can help you.
That's right. Okay, we've come to the end of the show. Monica, thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I had fun.
And Wahema, you've done a good job. We need to do this again, Kasuluba. We need to make arrangements to do this.
No,
Ladies and gentlemen, two things that Monica and Wahema have emphasized. Grateful. Let's be grateful and thankful. Zambia has lost a leader that served his country from as young as life could remember or it be in memorial. What I want us to do is to end the show by putting up this picture. And I just want you to take a moment and reflect on Arabi. Just look at that. I just want us to reflect on that. Just reflect on his life, how he dedicated his whole life to serving his country. I want us to end there.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.